Hello and welcome to the EDFL Web TV podcast section. It's our in-depth discussion of all things EDFL from round 15 of Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division and round 16 of Essendon 4 Division 1 and Division 2. Teo Pellizzeri with you. You've just come across from our on-camera segment of the show, and Adam Sarakoglu is here with me at the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds, 690 Mount Alexander Road. Adam, let's move to Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. We spoke extensively about the Avondale Heights versus Strathmore game off the top. Let's just put a bow on that one and some of the final talking points that came out of that match on the weekend. A draw, second draw of the season in Premier Division, and as our listeners and viewers would have seen, the extensive post-match thoughts of the coaches. Let's assume that the viewers have now had a listen to Craig Clinic. He had some very interesting comments there about the numbers and the stats of the makeup of that Avondale Heights goal-kicking list, with 9 of the 10 goals coming from Dean Galea and Patrick Rose. Yeah, and some of the stats suggest that a fair chunk of their scoring this year has come from those two and perhaps a couple others as well. I mean, even that other lone goal kicker, Luke Cartelli, he's had a massive impact, obviously, at Avondale this year. And after that top echelon, what's there? What's the middle tier, lower tier at Avondale Heights? I suppose that's the question at the moment. If you're going to look at depth, Strathmore have them covered in that department. I mean, Todd Grimer didn't register a goal on Saturday. He did play. His brother Alex obviously got 4. But, Purcell, Winter, Butler, haven't actually heard too much about Butler. He's a small forward,
yep.
Lively forward pressure type. He allows Matt Knight to play a bit further up the ground and break the lines in midfield.
Yeah, and even looking at the bests, I mean, it tells a story. Galea, Stratton, Tanner, Megan, Byrne, Morris. There's 6 of your guns at Avondale Heights. What's below them? That's the question. Well, as far as Strathmore's concerned, Harepool's a youngster, obviously, has had a pretty good year. There's a couple of guys there that have been good for a couple of years. Jones, Stapleton, Grimer, Douglas been around a little bit in Arrowsmith. But, Strathmore simply bat deeper. They've got players that have a little bit more experience, obviously, at crunch time as well. Many of these guys played in a couple of grand finals not so long ago. So, for mine, that's why Strathmore's in a better position at the moment.
2 guys that didn't make the Avondale Heights best, who I thought were really impressive, were James Taberner and also Dylan DeBritt. And they're 2 of the talls that can give Byrne a chop out in the ruck and can rove around the ground. I thought DeBritt was excellent across the half-forward line, and Taberner gave a good contest in the air. And I think that's what allows them to play Rose and Galea close to goal, basically as stay-home forwards for most of the match. And I don't think Sadi Ghazi was quite as enthusiastic about their performance as I was, but I think they outdid my expectations of what they're contributing to this Avondale Heights team, and they actually looked quite at home in Premier Division. So Strathmore, as we know, is a very tall team. They've got really good depth as far as the height and also tall players that could come back from VFL. So I really think that they're evenly matched. I still think Strathmore's the premiership favourite as well, but I think it's more because they've got a team that's maybe better built for the wide open spaces of Windy Hill, and I think Avondale Heights, even though they've got an excellent forward line, when they meet in a couple of weeks in the qualifying final, it'll be very interesting to see whether that's Coburg, Highgate or Windy Hill, because I think that'll have a big bearing on who I actually tip to win the game.
Yeah.
Can I just also say...
The dryer deck. Yeah, go on.
Stephen Tiller not named in the best is completely misleading. He was unreal. He was outstanding as well.
The dry deck, good conditions, for mine, favour Strathmore. They really do back themselves in those sort of conditions that, they're in clean conditions, they're the cleanest side in the league. They really do believe that. So you'd expect, obviously, September conditions to favour Strathmore, and that's why they're premiership favourite. Now, Teo, if I can take a leaf out of Gazy's book, just useless facts and figures. This particular scoreline, 10-8-68, Avondale Heights, Strathmore 9-14-68. I believe that is an exact match of the drawn 2010 AFL Grand Final. How useless is that stat? I reckon it's absolutely useless, but these two could be playing off at Windy Hill. It could well be a grand final replay, and one team could dominate like the AFL grand final replay when Collingwood smashed St Kilda.
Well, okay, let's entertain this theory. Who kicked 9-14 and who kicked 10-8? Was it Collingwood or St Kilda? Because I can tell you,
I don't know.
Adam,
I don't know. I'm pretty sure the scorelines weren't the same though.
Collingwood kicked 9-14 and St Kilda kicked 10-8. So maybe that's a good sign for Strathmore. But then again, I asked you on Web TV last week how much the last head-to-head between the teams meant, and you said absolutely nothing. So you've trumped me with that meaningless stat right there, I reckon.
Just thought I'd put it out there, Taylor.
No, fair enough. You're listening to the EDFL Web TV podcast section, and we are going to go on to Airport West versus the Northern Saints. If you've just come from our Web TV on-camera video, you will have seen Rocky Ferraro breaking this match down. Adam, anything you'd like to add to what Rocky had to say? Jed Clothier kicking 5 goals is the other really underrated part of this, because he was recruited from the TAC Cup, Essendon, New South Wales scholarship player. They opted not to pick up the option on him, and they basically let him out of the system into local football. Essendon VFL listed, but has played most of the season at the Northern Saints. Good to see him in some sensational form, and this really, every time Northern Saints win, we say it's the result of the season, but this is one of the results of the season.
Is 100 points the benchmark for a high score? Because if so, then Northern Saints kept Airport West to under 100, but it was 13 goals at 13 in the end, and they still obviously gave away quite a few scoring opportunities. Luckily for the Northern Saints, they managed to kick 29-18 themselves, but 13-13 is not exactly a low score. So, again, just it comes through that they're pretty easy to score against. The Northern Saints, as bad as Airport West was, they still put 91 points on the board against them.
Is this the worst 4 quarters the club has played since promotion to Premier? The last quarter against Aberfeldie, and then the first 3 quarters in which they got themselves into a 97-point hole. Worst 4 quarters since the club's come up to Premier, would you say?
I dare say, I dare say, Teo, I haven't come across any other recent results that suggest that Airport West have been that bad. So we asked the question last week, how much of that, I think it was a second term in particular, where Airport West looked pretty much dysfunctional going forward. What did Adam Contessa and the boys do about that necessarily at training during the week? It didn't. Whatever they did do, it didn't really show up on Saturday, did it? That's a pretty bad performance, but you don't want to take anything away from the Northern Saints. They are just incredible when they're on.
Let's go to the 1-point thriller between Maribyrnong Park and Pascoe Vale. Paul Medhurst goalless again for Maribyrnong Park. Not to worry, Nathan Black has been one of their go-to guys this season. Simon Cave, excellent player. Robbie Costello, willing this team over the line. Brodie Holland didn't play at the weekend. Luke Ryan, quality as well. And Maribyrnong Park do it to Pascoe again. They've beaten them in 2 cliffhangers, and unlike last time where they came from 6 goals down at 3/4 time, this time it was nip and tuck more or less all day. So it's a vital win for Maribyrnong Park. You'd have to say if you were framing a market for relegation at the moment, they might still be the bookies' favourites based on their run home. But has this done enough to convince you that they are still the front runners for the drop? And also, has it dragged Pascoe Vale back into the mix because of the numerous unfavourable results they needed to go against them in order to get squeezed into last place? 3 of them happened at the weekend.
Yeah, Pascoe by no means safe. I still think they have the worst percentage in Premier. I'm pretty sure that record. That's
absolutely they do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's intact. Obviously, the run home for Maribyrnong Park is not very nice at all. They have to go to Keilor this week, Joe Brown Oval, then they go to Clifton Park for Abbas, and then they host Greenvale. So that is not very kind at all. So this win was absolutely crucial for Marby, and we'll bring up Pascoe Vale's run home in a moment, Tayo.
And of course, that history between Greenvale and Marby means that even if Greenvale's out of the top 4 mix by then, they won't be on holiday. They won't be thinking about Mad Monday. They've played in consecutive grand finals, some of the big turning point games in both clubs' recent history as Premier Division teams. A fierce rivalry. I don't know if you were there, but I was there when they played in an elimination final where there was a brawl that more or less, was the peak of the bad blood between the 2 teams. So I think if Greenvale had the opportunity to relegate Marby on the last day of the season, they'd take it, regardless of whether or not top 4 is still on the line for them in the final week of the season.
Yeah, Pascoe's run home, by the way. Greenvale, Avondale Heights, Airport West. So this game on the weekend was absolutely crucial, and Marby got the chocolates there, so well done to them. But, big final 3 weeks coming up for both these clubs, and pretty important for Marby to get that win.
We move on now to Aberfeldie's win against Keilor. We went into the weekend thinking this would be a close game and a potentially exciting game, but Aberfeldie, too much quality in the end, and I'd been talking Keilor up, mainly based on the research of Mick McGuan and the preparation he would have put into his team. But Aberfeldie's guns fired the Kyle Count back to his lethal best, 4 goals. Jack Mack, $40 wealthier after getting the Sporting Globe voucher the week before. He kicked 3. Courtney Johns, consistent, kicking 2. And Mark Lynch hitting the scoreboard, which is a good sign because he's been playing a lot off half-back this season. I see that they rotated the squad a bit. Some of the kids that got dropped the previous week came back into the side, and Anthony Prestia was straight back into the best. Lockie Langwell kicked 8 in the 2s after getting dropped, so I think he had to get called back up to the senior team. But what did you make of this result here, and does it say more about Keilor or Aberfeldie with where the two teams are at as they joust for spots and potentially head towards an elimination final meeting against each other?
Those that hold the view that Keilor, if they make the finals, are just making up the numbers, well, seems like they're pretty much on the money based on that result.
Off the wagon.
Well, I know they've got a lot of good high-end talent, but after that, they don't seem to have enough depth to be able to run with the other 3 teams in the top 4.
It's something that they themselves have admitted, but I don't know if that's just foxing or whether it's genuinely true.
The results show it. Keilor's yet to... I know they beat Strathmore, but that was all the way back on Good Friday. Apart from that, they haven't really taken any decent scalps this year, Keilor, so I do believe they're going to play finals, but I can't see them pushing any of Avondale, Aberfeldie or Strathmore in the finals, so surprised by the margin in this game, but not so surprised that Aberfeldie won the game. Again, when good Aberfeldie turns up, they're pretty hard to beat, and seems like a bit of a barometer for how Aberfeldie is going to go is whether the Kyle Count is on show, and it appears he was. He top scored on the ground with the 4 goals, got in the best as well. So when Kyle's up, it seems like Abbas are too.
Tony Abbott wants us to all be on Team Australia. Are we on Team Kyle, or are we not on Team Kyle at the moment?
It depends who you go for, Teo, but I'm on Team Kyle. I'd like to see him obviously finish the year well after he had a pretty quiet start, and obviously I probably do sort of feel a little bit sorry for Aberfeldie after last year going down in the grand final. I know how desperate they are to finally get another senior premiership. Part of me perhaps is hoping that does happen this year. So I'm pretty much on the Kyle Reamers bandwagon, and hopefully Aberfeldie can get it right when it matters most, because when they are playing their best footy, they're the best team in Premier.
The other game in Premier at the weekend was Greenvale's very comfortable win against the Essendon Doutta Stars. This one never really teased us with a close score. It was Douta's by 4 points at quarter time, but by half time Greenvale had kicked to an arm's length margin, and it was all over by 3/4 time after 6 goals to 2 in the third term. Spinella kicking 5 goals. Chris Spinella, great return for him. Naina 4 from midfield. We know he polls well, so I don't know, Reynolds medal, maybe we start factoring him in. Of course, he's a previous runner-up in that award, and he's played all 15 games this season. Matt Smith kicked 4 goals, and also see Stephen Brewer was in the best again, and I suppose if you were going to put your money on anyone to win the medal out at Greenvale, it would be Stephen Brewer. Some of the losses they've had this season, particularly that slow start, has really counted against them over the course of the season. Can they bridge the gap and make the top 4? We'll get to Essendon Doutta Stars in the moment, but let's talk about the winners first. Greenvale, a very impressive but unsurprising result.
Yeah, not too much to speak out of this game, Teo. All it does, perhaps, it keeps their very, very slim finals hopes alive, but it'd be pretty unlikely for them to actually make it. As far as Essendon Doutta Stars are concerned, week in, week out, too much is being left to too few. I mean, Polk's had an excellent season. Slade's had an excellent season. They both were pretty good. Luke Rounds is in the best just about every single week. We know John O'Morris is a gun as well. After your top 4 or 5 best players at Essendon Doutta Stars week in, week out, who's getting the job done? That's been their issue all year.
A shout out to Marcus Calvarese. Yep. It's his second year up from under 18s, homegrown Douta's player, and in the best again. He's a great kick of the ball, left footer. They always look nice on the ball, but he's been one of the shining lights as well. And you'd think whether they stay up or go down, he'll be someone that the club will look to build around next year.
Yeah, we know they've got plenty of talent down there at Essendon Doutta Stars. We know they're going to have a new coach next year as well, so they'd want to keep a lot of that young talent together. And we know they've got some pretty good recruits from up Sunbury way, Cheap and Clark and Lob, and Slate. They were the big 4 basically. They came over as part of that one package. So those 4 stay together, and they basically keep a majority of this list together. It might come good in I suppose year 2 under that particular sort of setup in that best 22 for Essendon Doutta Stars. So for mine right now this season, too much left to too few. They need a few more to stand up.
We move on now and to the tips for round 16, the penultimate weekend. No, the third to last weekend of Premier Division. My apologies. And we look now, where would you like to start, Adam? How about Keilor versus Marby Park? Any prospect of an upset here for Maribyrnong Park as they try to land a big blow in the battle against relegation?
Not very little. Expecting Keilor to win that one fairly comfortably, especially after getting done the way they did against Aberfeldie. I don't think Keilor's actually dropped 2 games in a row this year. Whenever they do go down, they seem to bounce back pretty well, so Keilor wins that one.
I've got to say, it was close last time. It was the one-off Russell Robertson appearance, and Maribyrnong Park pushed Keilor all the way, but this time around, I'm not so sure. I reckon that it will be a win for the Blues. All right, Strathmore versus Airport West. This one may be a wolf in sheep's clothing, because we look at Strathmore, we look at Airport West, we say one team's demoralised, out of form, the other team's in great form and has just played football at a far greater intensity than what we've seen from most of the other Premier teams this season. So could we be suckered in and punched in the guts, or is this one going to go as we largely expect the form dictates it will?
Yeah, Airport West are officially cooked. Strathmore will get this win, especially at home.
Let's move on to Essendon Doutta Stars versus Avondale Heights. Again, a team on low on confidence near the bottom against a team with great performances on their jacket near the top. Any prospect of an upset at Nipper Jordan?
Yeah, very small one, but again, Avondale Heights just simply has too much there, and they won't be happy about what happened on the weekend. They could have done a lot better against Strathmore, obviously. We're probably lucky to get the draw in the end, so they bounce back and probably, maybe, hopefully not for the Stars, but maybe they take out some of their recent frustrations out on Douttas this weekend.
Pascoe Vale taking on Greenvale. Now, this match is also being filmed for the local footy show on Channel 31. And the reason, of course, is that Strathmore Community Bank, the fantastic sponsors of the Essendon District Football League, and Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division naming rights sponsor, also sponsor the Pascoe Vale Football Club. So good to see them taking care of the Panthers. But can the increased media spotlight in any way boost their cause to try and end Greenvale's top 4 hopes and absolutely rubber stamp their passage back into Premier next season? Yeah,
I really do feel like this game's up for grabs, but Greenvale should still win. Just having a look at the venue, it is Rayburn Reserve. So, yeah, Paco, really good showing in this one, but Greenvale should still win because I don't think missing the finals is going to be considered acceptable, and as long as the mathematics suggests that there's still a chance, they're going to go for it. So, Greenvale win.
And I've left the best until last year. Northern Saints hosting Aberfeldie at Charles Mutton. The previous title holder for biggest result of the season. Still probably the biggest upset of the season in any grade. And I think at the time we said in any EDFL season in recent times. So can they do it again? Aberfeldie have taken the warning on board, but as we know, they are repeat offenders. Some of the things that go badly for Aberfeldie just seem to keep happening. So can the Northern Saints win the contested ball and show those free scoring and high scoring skills, and can our guest this week, Rocky Ferraro, kick another bag of goals after 10 in the last 2 weeks? What's going to happen when Northern Saints take on Aberfeldie?
Just having a look at Aberfeldie's more recent results, good against Airport West, good against Keilor. Their last sort of bad result was Pascoe Vale 2 weeks ago, which was only an 8-point loss, let's be honest, but since going down to Greenvale, which now was late June, so more than a month ago, they have basically rocked up 3 of the last 5 games. And we all know that if Aberfeldie rocks up and play what they played us at a game we expect them to play, they're pretty much unbeatable. Recent form, looking at the last fortnight, suggests that they are in good form at the moment, so they should continue that. But gee, that forward line does have some question marks at the moment, Teo, and as we know, if you're going to beat the Northern Saints, you probably have to kick 21 or 22 goals because the Saints will probably put 20 on you. That's the doubt for Aberfeldie, but I think they can do it. I think they can win, especially if Kyle has a good day.
I almost talked myself into saying let's take the commentary van out to Charles Mutton, but I think we've done Aberfeldie almost every second week for the last 6 weeks, so we had to mix it up a bit. But
there's 27 clubs in this league,
yeah, there is 27 clubs.
It's hard to get around to all of them.
Such a compelling fixture, though. We'll be keenly keeping an eye on the around-the-ground scores and also checking in with the full-time result on EDFL Review. You're listening to the EDFL Web TV podcast section, and we are at the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds, 690 Mount Alexander Road. I'm going to miss doing Web TV over summer at M, because this looks like it would be quite a nice little drinking spot to come and watch the cricket over a long summer, or maybe just checking in the evening for a 2020 or two, or an A-League fixture even, but I might have to just come here on my own time. Or we can do an impromptu midsummer EDFL Web TV edition.
Tell you what, Teo, after spending an entire winter coming here for the purposes of work, wouldn't mind coming here to actually enjoy myself and actually enjoy what Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds has to offer. So I'll be back here over the summer, Teo, and it'd be perhaps good not to be in front of a camera. As much as I like EDFL Web TV, I think I need a break, Teo. I've been working pretty hard this year.
Let's move on to Essendon Forward Division 1 and go through some of the results from round 16, the third to last weekend. I will get that right this time, and of course the penultimate weekend coming up on Saturday. Let's start with some of the games that don't need too much addressed. West Coburg very comfortably defeating Westmeadows, almost three figures in the end, so I think Westmeadows come out of this one smarting, reminded of their place, and well, when Rory Cleary plays for West Coburg and they've got that big forward target to kick to, the team is transformed. So when the son of Phil Cleary is available from Coburg, West Coburg looks like a fundamentally different team and able to really kick a much bigger total. 5 more goals for him, Abdi Fidax 4, and really a very comfortable arm's length win set up by 4 goals 9 to 1 goal 2 in the opening term.
Said that Keilor might be making up the numbers in Premier Finals. I like it. I like Westmeadows. I really like the way they go about it today. I was very impressed by how they go about match day. Obviously, they were really good hosts for us when we did their broadcast game, but I don't know exactly what they can bring to the table in September, especially with Taylor's Lakes coming good in recent weeks.
They lack the top
I'm
end
pretty sure,
flash and talent, don't they?
They're going to be struggling to cause much damage in September. So a few things for Dave Connell to work on in the next couple of weeks. Luckily for Westmeadows, though, they do get the bye in the final round. They don't have to play in round 18. I think it's round 18 anyway in Division 1.
Correct. So that is correct.
That might hold them in good stead. Really take a breather, have a week to think about things, and prime themselves for what looks like a date with Taylor's Lakes.
Well, here's the thing, because being in the media, I look at the things that maybe a coach doesn't, and maybe that coaches don't consider to be relevant. But I look at the ladder, and I see that if Westmeadows lose this weekend and Glenroy can somehow upset both West Coburg and Tullamarine in the last 2 rounds, then Glenroy, if they were to make up a huge percentage gap, could still pinch Westmeadows' spot in the top 4. They can still both finish on 9 and 7. The problem is that there's a 15% differential between the two, and that leads us on to our discussion of Glenroy beating Hadfield. In the end, 20 points. It was close for most of the day, but Ethan Hope kicked a bag of 4. Rodney Carruthers presented, and Trav Dulick doing what he does on a regular basis, which is contribute and kick goals. Is there any hope whatsoever that Glenroy could do the unthinkable, knock off the top 2 back-to-back and make up 15% and steal Westmeadows' spot in the top 4? Or am I just doing... am I just talking it up for the sake of trying to find a story here?
No, top 4 locked in. Next game, please.
All right. Any comment on the losers? Hadfield, though. Victorino kicked 5. Good performance from him. And looking at some of their better players, Rasharashi was in there. Heath McKersher. Also Stephen Razil. So some of their top line players played well. They just couldn't sustain it into the last quarter where it was 5 goals to 2.
Yeah, looking at this game, it was about right. Glenroy have been pretty disappointing this year, and not surprised that they won a relatively close game in the end, and they've probably got a bit more experience as well, which probably showed in the last quarter and shows why they managed to kick 5 goals to 2.
The big talking point of the weekend, Taylor's Lakes have knocked off the top pair 2 weeks in a row. It was looking good for them when they kicked 5 goals to 9 in the opening quarter and kept Tullamarine at arm's length for much of the day. And in the end, Tullamarine did come back 4 goals to 1 in the last term, but it really was just doing some cosmetic repair to the margin. Does this suggest that Taylor's Lakes can make the grand final? I've been on their wagon all the way through. You've perhaps been a little bit more sceptical about their prospects. Have they done enough to convince you these last 2 weeks that Division 1 is now a 3-horse race.
A very good side that played for Tullamarine, Teo. Having a look at the 22 that took the field, a lot of them are sort of key players for Tullamarine. Doesn't look like anyone was necessarily missing from that side. So this is a really good win for Taylor's Lakes. But again, week in, week out, it is the same guys that are constantly standing up. Longo, Mark Gireb, we know, is he leading the goal kicking in Division 1, Teo? He wouldn't be surprised if he's up there at least anyway.
Kent Mangan Double is back on top.
Well, Gireb definitely, every year, obviously has a good year. Mamidi, Mark D'Souza still going strong. I mean, these are the same guys week in, week out that are getting it done for Taylor's Lakes. Do you want to be relying on your top echelon in finals? Probably not. You want to know what's underneath. Same issue with a lot of clubs, obviously, at the moment, but credit to Taylor's Lakes. They've probably proven me wrong in recent weeks. I did write them off, but you can't argue with back-to-back wins against West Coburg and Tullamarine, who we thought were that far ahead of everyone else. It seems like now perhaps Taylor's Lakes can just about join them. It's now 3 clubs at the top, and everyone else is sort of chasing the pack a little bit.
Tulla, not much to worry about. We know that their mind has perhaps been drifting forward to finals for a little while now. The risk is, of course, they don't want complacency to creep in and get belted by West Coburg in the first week. So maybe just look for an upturn in form from them before the home and away season is out, just to show that they've got that little bit of intensity back. Let's now look at the other game in Essendon Ford at Division 1 from the weekend, and that was Hillside's loss to Oak Park. Oak Park, hey, they kicked straight. They've been such an inaccurate team in front of goals this season, but they straightened up and they've kicked a huge score, 21 goals, 8. Jack Kennedy's dominated with 7 of them, and the inside word that I got from Oak Park was that this was by far and away their best performance of the season.
Congratulations to the Kangaroos, and Jack Kennedy kicked up a bag of 7, so that ended up proving the difference. On the other side, though, again, my man Fabi Delizia, the former soccer player, Teo, could well have been a Socceroo that was plying his trade in Brazil about a month ago. He's ditched that, decided to take up Aussie rules, and he's had a pretty good couple of years in... that's obviously the Hillside Footy Club. He was quite instrumental in getting Hillside into Division 1, which was their sole purpose last year, and obviously he's done well again, so good on him. But again, not enough other contributors, not enough teammates of Fabio's that are really helping at the moment, and it's put Hillside in a bit of trouble because all of a sudden they're still only 1 win away from the bottom, and pretty big game against Hadfield coming up for them this week.
Now, we've discussed that on camera, so if you missed the preview of the EDFL match of the day for broadcast this coming weekend, Hadfield versus Hillside, click the links back through and just follow the links on screen for the EDFL radio game preview. Let's look at the other 3 matches in Essendon Ford Division 1 that are coming up this weekend, and as we said on camera, the one that missed out on getting the broadcast van by a coin toss only was Craigieburn versus Oak Park. Oak Park's devastating form perhaps scared me off in a sense. I think that perhaps they might be able to win this one unless Craigieburn really brings something special. We spoke to Peter Bugden on EDFL preview last week. He seems fairly optimistic that his team can finish with a bang, but can they get the upset win here against Oak Park and take a big step towards surviving in Division 1 this season?
Looking at the leaderboard in the tipster's tail, I am 1 behind the lead at the moment. Yourself and the Pud, Wayne Anthony, are on top on 151 at the moment, and I'm 1 win back. So I've decided just to start going for a few upsets, and this is one of them. I think Craigieburn gets the win at home this week at DS Aiken against Oak Park. Again, Oak Park, they were very good against Hillside, but they can also be very, very bad. Craigieburn have been okay, especially in the big games this year. They just keep getting these wins every now and then. Everyone seems to think that Craigieburn is the favourite to go down, and they are the worst team in Division 1, but they just keep getting it done, it seems. This is a game where they could really, really strike at home, especially as well. So that's probably my upset of the week. I reckon the Eagles get the Kangas in that one.
Tullamarine versus Westmeadows. As I flagged when we were talking about their weekend result, I reckon there'll be a lift in intensity from Tulla here, and they'll start turning the heat back up as they enter that first final against West Coburg. If Westmeadows lose this by 100 points or more, Adam, and of course Glenroy beats West Coburg, then the great heist is on. But you're shaking your head. You don't think that's going to happen, and I'm jumping at shadows, maybe.
I know your role is to pump up the excitement, obviously, Teo. I do understand that, but Division 1 top 4 has been locked in for a month. It's not changing.
Okay.
Okay, I promise you it is not changing, even if Westmeadows does get done.
Okay.
By that kind of margin, Glenroy ain't going to beat West Coburg. So, yeah, again, does Ash Manning want the form line to start reading a little better than it is at the moment? That's going to be the big question. Tullamarine's basically guaranteed to be playing against West Coburg in that first final, so it is all about week 1 of the finals, which is only 3 weeks away now. That's very exciting in itself, Teo. So that's a big question for mine in this game. Does Ash Manning want Tulla to actually turn things around, get their sort of form, I won't say season, their form back on track? On the flip side, Westmeadows, they need to prove that they can actually play some good footy against these better clubs, and they need to push Tullamarine in this game. It's not a big road trip. It's almost walking distance from Willowbrook to Leo Deneen. The game's at Leo Deneen.
It's a bad sign if they start getting further and further away from the top two, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, especially after that pretty heavy loss on the weekend to, who did Westmeadows lose to?
West Coburg.
My mind's just gone blank there. So, yep, they need to start sort of proving that they can match it with these guys and really send the message to Taylor's Lakes that Week 1 elimination final is not going to be a walkover, and it's not going to feature Glenroy, Teo. I'm pretty confident about that.
So we move on now to Division 2. You're listening to the EDFL Web TV podcast section, and thank you for joining us at the Sporting Globe, 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds. If you've come here from the on-camera segment, we were talking about Moonee Valley getting an all-important win against Keilor Park in the battle for finals spots. And in the end, only 10 points the difference. Jordan Farber kicked a bag of goals. His 7 was crucial. Also, one of their better contributors this year, Ricky Halabi. They've even though they lost a lot of their top-end talent last year, they've retained some key players who've got it done week in, week out. Youngster Taylor Gorry in the best again, not a surprise. And over at Keilor Park again, it's a story of the key players having to do the heavy lifting and play well. Heath Abela kicking 5. Brant Anselmi in the best. That's happened almost every week of the season. He's got to be considered a medal contender. And also Judd Darby in the best for Keilor Park, one of their off-season recruits who was slotted straight into the best 18. So what's your read on this one for Moonee Valley as they land a crucial blow in the battle for 4th spot?
Yeah, really good win for them. Haven't seen Moonee Valley live this year, so it's really tough for me to pass too much judgment on just how they're going. But, it's the big games that count. This was a virtual final. They got the job done. So, well done to Moonee Valley. As far as Keilor Park's concerned, look, they seem to keep failing in these pretty big games this year. We watched them live against Jacana, and they couldn't get the job done there that day. And, again, failed against Moonee Valley. But you don't want to be too harsh on Keilor Park because we know that there's been a coaching change. Rob McCluskey is no longer in that role, and
Andrew Bubb's
a new guy. Yeah, it's still there for the taking for Keilor Park, but they just don't have enough, it seems, at the moment to. Even if they do get to finals, they probably won't cause any damage. So, probably the right result there that Moonee Valley was a 10-point winner. Now,
the other team in the mix for 4th spot is Jacana, and they had what would have been a fairly unsatisfying win against East Sunbury. I got some word from viewers on the scene that said that Jacana actually ran amok in the 3rd quarter and proceeded to kick 2 goals, 7-1 straight, when they really perhaps should have kicked considerably more, not just because they were inaccurate in front of goal, but because they were wasteful kicking the ball inside 50 as well. And they actually turned for home 3 points down when they maybe should have been 5 or 6 goals in front. And then things finally clicked in the last quarter and they've kicked 5 goals 6 to 2 goals 2 and ended up getting over the line. Good signs for East Sunbury, though. 2nd time this season they've led all the way to 3-quarter time, only to be overrun in the last. And James Wakeling with 5 more goals. You'd have to say he's putting a down payment on the best and fairest at the moment, although guys like Lucas Shaw, Curick as well was right up there. Bain, who was good in the game that we saw when we took the commentary van out to West Sunbury. So good signs for the Thunder, but Jacana in the end, they needed the result a whole lot more, and they got over the line in the end.
Yeah, they get the tick, but not much else. They were pretty disappointing in this game. Jacana, they have been in recent weeks as well. I know it's a fairly different side to the one that's taken the field and got the job done in a lot of games this year. So
injuries, suspensions, poor form. It's been really taken its toll.
It has, and that's going to probably prove costly if Jacana wants to play finals footy this year. But well done to East Sunbury. They're getting more and more competitive every single week. Hopefully next year they can actually start getting some wins against some of the more established clubs in Division 2. It'd be great to see. It's good to see them being competitive in games like this one as well.
Now, this match, the next one we're going to talk about, could have been a precursor to the preliminary final, at least based on ladder position. That's what you would suggest, and it was East Keilor comfortably defeating Coburg Districts. 31 points in the end. It was 48 points the difference at three-quarter time, and they really kicked out in the second quarter with 8 goals to 1 and made a real statement about the gap between Coburg Districts and East Keilor. Much like us disagreeing on Taylor's Lakes for most of the year, you and I seem to disagree on Coburg Districts as well. I'm saying that the top two is well clear of them. The top two is now 5-0 against Coburg Districts this year, although you've maintained, Adam, through a number of weeks that they could still pull off the upset should they get through that elimination final. Has this shaken your faith in Coburg Districts?
Yeah, a little bit. They probably need East Keilor or Roxy to have a bad day at the office for them to get up in any of those games. But credit to them, they've stuck at it all year. Coburg Districts, they are obviously better than everyone else below them on the table, but East Keilor and Roxy do seem to be a little ahead of them at the moment. But, I'll pose a question to you, Tayo. Who do you think Coburg Districts would rather meet in that prelim, assuming that Coburg Districts gets through? I reckon they'd rather see Roxy, but not quite sure.
Gee, it's tough, because I reckon if Roxy lost to East Keilor, they might take the defeat a little bit harder, whereas East Keilor seemed to me like a bit more of a finals battle-hardened team with guys who've been there and done it before. So I'm inclined to agree with you on that point, but of course you still never know who might finish fourth and cause all sorts of trouble for Coburg Districts. Last game, Roxburgh Park versus Burnside Heights. Nothing really too shocking about this one. It was under 3 figures, which is a good sign for the fighting spirit of Burnside Heights, playing some tough defence, and really the game got away from them in the last quarter more than anything, where it was 5 goals 8 to 1 goal 3. Matt Mickelson, bag of 9. He's cashed in, and now he's up to 75 goals for the year. So with 2 more home and away games and potentially 3 finals, can he get the ton? If he kicks 100, Roxy will win the flag. I mean, it's not exactly going out on a limb to say that if he kicks 25 goals over his next 4 games, they're probably going to be winning more than they lose.
It's 5 games, I think, including
well,
3
assuming
finals,
that they play a prelim final. But
that's 5 a game, so you'll struggle to get the 100. I know we touted that as a really good chance earlier in the year. I probably said an emphatic yes that he will get that 100, but
well, we got pretty
not
excited.
so convinced now. He's tailed off a little bit in recent weeks, but good that he's back, getting 9 in this particular game of footy. And again, good to see that Burnside Heights kept up with them at least for a half.
And the average age of their best 6 each week would be one of the lowest for any EDFL club. There seems to be teenagers in there every week, and seeing Demech in the best for Roxburgh Park again, McGill, also other players that have been in over the course of the season that are either in their early 20s or in their teens. Just goes to show that there's a really good future, and regardless of whether they win the flag or not this year, the building blocks are in place for Roxburgh Park to go on and do some good things, assuming, of course, that the prying eyes and dollar figures of teams in other divisions or even divisional rivals don't come and start breaking up this very good team.
Would they prefer to go up if that's the case? That's the question for Roxy. If they go up, they're more likely to keep those kids, aren't they?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Plus, the bond of winning a premiership together would be invaluable. Let's move on and tip Division 2 this weekend. You're on the EDFL Web TV podcast, and we are looking at the penultimate round in Division 2. Burnside Heights versus Moonee Valley. Moonee Valley need to win and boost their percentage. It's already the best of the 3 teams going for 4th spot, but it certainly wouldn't help. So my question to you, Adam, is the margin. How much?
That'll be 70 points.
I reckon it'll be a bit more. I reckon Moonee Valley will be merciless. I reckon it'll be closer to 120, all due respect to Burnside Heights. Roxburgh Park versus East Sunbury. Again, the margin. How much?
About 100.
I'm inclined to agree. East Keilor versus Jacana. Last time they met, Jacana won by 61 points. It was the upset of the season in the division. This time around, I think East Keilor is in much better form. Jacana is banged up and in much worse form, and I think the Cougars will get it done. And I wouldn't be surprised if they got it done by a similar margin to what Jacana beat them by last time around, 10 goals.
Yeah, I reckon it'll be about 50 points for East Keilor on this occasion. They won't let that happen again. And, they're sort of trying to jostle for top position with Roxy at the moment, and they probably do want to finish top of the ladder, East Keilor, and really make a statement going in the finals that they are the better team than Roxy. So I expect them to bet up a little bit on Jacana, but if Jacana have a good day, they'll probably run them close. That's why I'm inclined to think it'll be about 50 points in the end.
And the game which has huge ramifications for fourth spot, Keilor Park hosting Coburg Districts. A win here would put Keilor Park well and truly in the box seat. Can they get the job done against the team that would be waiting for them should they actually make it to the top four?
Yeah, they can, but I don't think they will. Coburg Districts bounces back after that loss against East Keilor last week.
Adam, thanks for joining me here at the Sporting Globe. Always fun to break down the issues in depth. And to our listeners, thanks for staying with us. Of course, as you can see on your screen, you can click through and listen to any game in any segment, both the review and the tips at any point in time. We hope you're enjoying the format. The stats we're getting on the web would suggest that people who do click through and listen to this listen to the full thing. So we thank you for that, and we look forward to your company next week. Adam, have a good weekend. You won't be joining me in the van on Saturday, but I'm looking forward to seeing you back for our match for broadcast in 2 weeks' time, which will be Keilor versus Greenvale, and that one will be an absolute cracker in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. Yes,
really looking forward to that. I might try and join the boys for the pre-game show this weekend, Tay. See how I go, but a couple of big games coming up for the broadcasts, and Hadfield and Hillside will definitely be very important in the relegation battle for Div 1. But it's been a pleasure. Until next week.
Make sure you support our sponsor, the Sporting Globe, 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds, and stay on the EDFL YouTube channel. There's plenty to look at as you browse around. That's it for now. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.